to Fossils and Fiction, a show about ancient life, paleontology, and the stories we tell. The show is produced by me, Travis Holland, on Wiradjuri country with the support of Charles Sturt University. Enjoy! In this episode of Fossils and Fiction, I'm chatting to Zach Vanasse, the founder of Dinosaur Trips. It's a non-sponsored episode, but I really wanted to get Zach's story, and so I asked him all about how he came to set up the company, some of the best stories he's had while there, and also some of the upcoming trips. Hi, Zach. Welcome to Fossils and Fiction. First question I have for you is, were you a dinosaur kid?
Yeah, of course I was a dinosaur kid. Absolutely. That's where it all started. I don't even know the age. There's video of me getting excited about dinosaurs at like age 3, I think, at Christmas. I got Play-Doh dinosaur set, but it's clear from that video I'm already deep into the dinosaur thing at that point. So I don't know when or how it has started exactly. Somewhere along the line, I fell into it though, and was certainly a dinosaur kid.
So we're here to have a chat about your company, Dinosaur Trips. Now, when I was growing up, I was thinking, obviously, I wanted to be a paleontologist or an astronaut, right? Like that typical thing.
Mm.
But if you think about the careers related to dinosaurs, I don't think a lot of people would go, I'm going to be a dinosaur travel agent. So why did you create this company?
Yeah, it was a long and winding road to it. So I was a dinosaur kid. It was a huge passion for me in my younger years. But like a lot of people, and unlike yourself, obviously, who continued to kind of chase that. So as a teenager and in my 20s, it kind of took a back seat to a lot of other interests in my life. I became a journalist. First, I was a sports journalist and a radio host that eventually led to me becoming a travel writer. And so that's where my career in the travel industry started. I was a writer and then switched that, worked in consultancies within the travel industry, so helping tour operators and trip designers with their marketing and branding and trip designs. I worked with not for profits, kind of every corner of the travel industry that you can work with. I worked with over the course of 10, 12, 13 years. For a stretch there. And my interest in paleontology and dinosaurs and fossils was secondary as the internet came around, and Twitter specifically, as well as some really good books were published from a few paleontologists that made it accessible for folks like myself who weren't actually paleontologists but were still curious about what was going on in the world of discovery to look into. So I was still feeding that interest from a hobbyist level. For a few years, but it was only in the pandemic I was doing some consulting work in northern British Columbia, Canada, and came across in a neighboring region in northern Alberta, in fact, in Grand Prairie, northern Alberta, this awesome museum, the Dr. Philip J. Currie Dinosaur Museum, that was doing digs, and you could go, and I thought, oh man, for me who desperately wanted to be a paleontologist as a kid, um, and then for one reason or another didn't become that. This seemed like the coolest travel experience possible. But when I took a closer look, nobody was really doing anything that was connected. I could make a bigger trip out of it. I could go do a dig for 1 or 2 days with the museum up in northern Alberta, but what the rest of that experience was going to look like, nobody was offering it. Which surprised me
Mm-hmm.
because Alberta in Canada is a very prolific fossil finding province, and there's tons to do, but there was just no connectivity between any of it. And the more I zoomed out to see if anywhere in the world was offering these experiences, nobody was. And so, with that in mind, I said, you know what, this is a niche that I know there's a passionate base for. I've met these people online. I know about this world a little bit, but no one's giving them the opportunity to go out and for the amateur paleontologist, the hobbyist interested in dinosaurs, that there's just not that chance to explore the world through this lens of paleontology. And so Dinosaur Trips was born from that, from seeing that there was this niche that perhaps needed filling, and Dinosaur Trips could be the company to do it.
And I really am just a bit of a hobbyist in the dinosaur field myself. I also trained as a journalist, and then my
Oh, okay.
academic work was my academic work was really traditional media studies work for a
Oh,
long
it's
time.
traditional media.
Yeah, like I was focusing on The Simpsons and all sorts of stuff, and writing
Right.
about
Yes.
random, yeah, totally random things. And then, I kind of did a similar thing. I looked around on the internet and kind of went, I need to pick up those things that were passions for me as a kid. And so started talking about dinosaurs again and started talking about paleontology. And I've done a little bit of studying now, but this project is really trying to bring those two parts of my life together as well. So yeah, I think we're quite similar actually in a way, um,
We also
which is
share deep
interesting.
love for The Simpsons. So,
Yeah. Well, I guess we're probably similar ages as well, so that's easy done.
yeah, exactly.
Now, Dinosaur Trips itself, what do you actually offer? So you said you couldn't find the trips out there that you sort of thought you wanted or you should be seeing out
Mhm.
in the world. So, what offerings did you come up with? How do you put those packages together and think about what to offer?
Yeah, so we started. Being Canadian myself, I started in Alberta, taking the experience that was being offered by the Dr. Curry Museum, and pairing that up with a whole bunch of other experiences across the province of Alberta. So, in Alberta, they've got Drumheller, which is they this town itself has called itself the dinosaur capital of the world. It is the Royal Tyrrell Museum is there, which is arguably the greatest paleontology museum on earth. Really fantastic. You've got Dinosaur Provincial Park a couple hours from there, which offers great experiences, whether you're doing hiking or digs. So tying all these various paleontological pieces across the province together and combining that with other experiences that you would just want to do if you were visiting Alberta, which in this case, means the Rocky Mountains. And there's a huge cowboy culture out in Alberta. So we're doing horseback rides. And so for me, it was really taking my experience in the travel industry, knowing how to build trips, making sure that we were still seeing kind of the best that the destination has to offer, and then tying together those paleontological pieces, using those as our compass is basically the way I like to explain it to people, to choose where we're going. And as we've expanded out, we're looking to do that in other places. We're going to be doing that in Australia. We're going to be doing that on the Jurassic Coast in the UK. We're doing it in Patagonia. We're going to be doing it in Montana as well. So we've just continued to find destinations that have um, some really unique and interesting and compelling dinosaur experiences, whether it be that a dig or a museum, that kind of thing, and then building a nice itinerary around it. It allows you to bring along your partner or a friend or a group of friends who, maybe you're the one who's the hardcore dino fan in the group, but there's enough other stuff that's really compelling and interesting and fun that I think everyone who comes along these trips gets a lot out of them, whether or not you're interested in paleontology. And I think there's a general sense for most people. I won't speak for everybody, but for most people, there's dinosaurs are compelling enough that you could spend a couple days doing a dinosaur dig and getting some incredible access to the museums. Sitting there and working on the fossilized bones in the research lab. What I've seen so far in the trips that we've done is the folks who came along and were maybe not quite as obsessed with dinosaurs or gung ho on that really come to love that part of the experience,
Hmm.
maybe more so than the counterparts who got convinced them to come along simply because their expectation, is just like, oh, okay, I'll do this, and then they're like, wow, this is really mind blowing. Like I'm digging up a 70 million-year-old dinosaur bone that nobody's ever seen before. So
Yeah.
yeah, it really wins them over.
This is the clip I'm going to have to use to convince my wife to let me sign up for one of your trips. I think because she's kind of like not another museum whenever we're in a new city or whatever it happens to be, and I'm like, oh, we're going to go here today. So yeah, well, no, Zach takes you on other to all the other things to see as well. It's not just the dinosaurs. So uh, who does go on your trips? Do you just get dinosaur nerds, or do you get all sorts of people sign up?
No, you get all sorts of people. I've been very pleased with that. Not that I don't love being around my fellow dinosaur nerds. Um, and a great part of starting this company is getting the chance to bring this community together. I can already see it happening, even though we're just kind of in our second year of operation, where we've got people who are going to travel with us, on an annual basis as we pick a new exciting destination. Um, with some great paleontologists that they want to get to meet, get to do a dig for a few days here and there. So the paleo nerd is obviously always going to be core to our audience, but there's a lot of other people coming along who are interested in perhaps exploring a destination through the lens of paleontology, who have perhaps done a lot of trips in their life and are looking for something that's a little different, get a little bragging rights with their friends. I mean, who besides actual paleontologists has ever been on a dinosaur tip before? In the world of social media, that's a pretty good brag to be like, oh, here I am out in northern Alberta on a dig. Like, people enjoy it for that, and people who have um, curious travelers, I think, is what I've really found in the folks who are coming who are not paleo obsessed. And when I say that, it's like people who um, maybe have done something similar in the realm of archaeology in the past. People
Yeah.
who are deeply interested in history, or last summer they were out on a recreated Viking ship, and now they're interested in something that's not the same, but in that vein of what's cool, what's different, what's a kind of more compelling way to explore each destination. What is it that would make this special? And so for the curious traveler, for the person who wants to kind of open up a destination and the place that they're exploring beyond your kind of the expected checklist. They want to explore a little deeper, do something unique. They're finding their way to dinosaur trips and finding the trips to be very fun. And for me, like it's obviously great to be able to take a dinosaur enthusiast and introduce them to a paleontologist that they've read their books or been a fan of for a long time, and see the look on the face, and like that's fun. It is for sure, but taking somebody who is like, wait, what's a triceratops exactly? And by the end of the trip, you feel that they've completely converted over and are like, oh my God, I need to get these books. I'm all in on this. What's the next spot? Like, and now
Yeah.
I know my Cretaceous from my Jurassic. I get it. Like, seeing that conversion happen is really rewarding too.
There's a real sense in which I think people are looking for those unique experiences and authentic experiences as
Yeah.
well. Often when people go to a destination, you don't just want to see it from the window of a tour bus or a cruise ship. You actually want to get down there, and I think you said the phrase "dig a little deeper," which is like a really you can't do any worse than dig into the little earth that an area is built on and known for, and find the secrets hiding underneath. So for each trip, you do include paleontologists and other experts, I think, for each trip. But you mentioned, getting to introduce the paleo nerds to the people they've admired and those kinds of things. So who are some of the people you have worked with?
Yeah. So today we're new days, but we've worked with Dr. Curry, Dr. Philip Curry in Alberta, and we've got Dr. Brian Curtis, who's been leading our U.S. trips that are coming up in the spring. So those are the two paleontologists who we've locked in so far. There's a lot of others on the roster who I just can't say their names yet in public
Yeah.
places, who I'm very excited to be telling people about. But until everything's signed, sealed, and delivered, we can't exactly be putting that out there. So yeah, Dr. Curry was a great get for last year's experiences, and for this year we're traveling with Dr. Curtis. We've also working with Bethany Burke, who's a science educator for our family trip. She does some great work with for kids, which is a whole different level of how to put together a trip and structure and teach. And so we brought in her Bethany Burke of BK Bones, who's just a great communicator and great with kids to work on that level. So
Yeah, great. What really motivates you to go to work each day and run this? Running your own business can be an exhausting prospect. So what really gets you up and gets you excited about it?
for the one piece is just getting to work in something that I love. Yes, I get to introduce our guests to paleontologists that they're excited about. I get to take them, lead them along, and be like, here's where we're digging in Pipestone Creek bone bed, one of the most densest bone beds on the face of the earth, or whatever. And that's cool and fun for me. But there's the other part where I'm just doing that for myself. The idea that I get to email these paleontologists and get on Zoom conversations. And I was talking with one guy a couple of weeks ago who had literally met Barnum Brown and been shown around the
Mhm.
American Natural History Museum when he was a kid by Barnum Brown, and took him to the T Rex, and just that story, like it was thrilling to just hear it from somebody who'd actually been there and met him. And so those kind of it's just so it's so exciting for me. It's so rewarding. I'd never been on a dinosaur dig until leading these trips last year. That kind of thing is exciting. And yeah, as you said, running your own business is exhausting. It's stressful. Especially starting one from scratch and trying to build it up. It's a lot. But on the days when I'm finding myself going, oh my gosh, this is what have I signed myself up for? Usually something kind of happens on one of those days where somebody comes through and says, "Oh, guess what? We're going to be checking out this holotype when we go behind the scenes of this museum." Or, "Oh, hey, I've got this person to introduce you to. We might be able to do a dig with them." It gets me excited every time in ways that all my years that I enjoyed being in a consultancy or working for expedition companies or whatever. I had a great time, but nothing where I was felt like I was really fueling one of my a passion that I just got excited about here with whatever little bit that comes my way. To be honest, it's always exciting for me still in paleontology.
Yeah. Is there, you said you were getting into dinosaurs and learning a lot more again, or getting reacquainted, I should probably say, with dinosaurs and
Yeah.
learning a lot, reading books. But after you started the business, is there anything that you can point to, something you learned, a little fact that you just went, man, that's so cool. That's the coolest thing I've heard that you learned from having started the business.
There's been a ton because I was hardcore into dinosaurs as a kid, which I was born in 1984. So like I probably tapered off on that interest in about the mid 90s. Post Jurassic Park a few years. Then suddenly there was girls and sports and music and that kind of thing to take my interest. So, and I didn't come back to it until the 2010s or so in any serious way. So much had happened in that period of time. It was absolutely ridiculous. Just the advances, the change in of information and knowledge that we had about dinosaurs. Some of my favorites from my childhood no longer existed or didn't exist for a while and had been returned to the fold. There was so much to I mean, when I was a kid, we still didn't know with any certainty what had even killed the dinosaurs. So there was,
Mm,
it feels like all the time there's something new that's coming along. I think the thing that has really for me kind of been the oh my gosh, like I can't believe we're here with this is the fact that we've now found with very few, but some with the skin color, with feathers, with uh, that kind of stuff that just seemed impossible when I was a kid. Has been the most exciting. Just these advances in things that the books I was reading when I was young basically said, and there's no way for us to ever figure this out. And now we have figured some of these things out. What we're able to do with going deep on DNA, it's just like, oh wow, they've unlocked so much more. And at some point, I want to get dinosaur trips to China. We have to get over to China at some point because
hmm
the amount of new species and stuff that's come out of China, that's mind blowing to me. When I've been diving back in and all these new discoveries that are constantly happening, it's just like, oh wow, China's one of the leading spots these days to get into. So I'm always kind of paying attention
Yeah.
to what's coming out of there and seeing how we can win and how we can get dinosaur trips over there.
Yeah, I mean, the way that Chinese paleontology is reshaping what we know and what we understand and has done for the last 30 years is
Mhm.
extraordinary, really. So I was going to ask then, what is your white whale trip, the trip that you'd love to plan or go on? But it feels like maybe a trip to China is up there.
Oh yeah, it's. I mean, I truly, sincerely get excited about every one of these. They all kind of offer something really different and unique. The one that when I started the company that I circled and I'm excited about it is Patagonia, which we'll be doing uh, again in 2025. It's a destination simply as somebody who's worked in the travel industry for all this time I've never been to, and I've romanticized, and people who have gone multiple times. I'll swear by it as one of the great destinations, and it's a great paleontological destination too. So that I would say is the one that I kind of have had at the top of the list of let me check this one off, and I feel like we've really done something here. So yeah, that's I
Yeah.
mean, but China certainly into across the continent of Africa. There's a lot of good opportunities to do a dig and some exploration. So anything. I love doing North America. There's obviously your classic, your Hall of Fame dinosaurs, and your Hall of Fame paleontologists are largely North American. So it's exciting to be doing that stuff. But I am looking forward to kind of get off the North American continent and explore elsewhere.
Yeah. Do you have any really great, funny stories? What's the story you tell kind of at the pub? You can't believe this happened on a trip,
For
without
sure.
maybe naming anyone involved.
Yeah, no, it's and I'm pretty sure this guest is fine with me sharing this story as I've done it before. We were in Dinosaur Provincial Park in Alberta. And this was been the second or third day of our first trip, and we're going. Dinosaur Provincial Park is largely an entirely protected area, so you can't go out into it without a paleontologist guide there with your group. We're just our small little Dinosaur Trips group with this one paleontologist across this vast, vast, gigantic park. It's gorgeous. It's badlands, um, but they're very protective of it because it's so fossil rich and also so fragile. And so we're going along, and our paleontologist guide says, just you guys choose the way, and you're looking at thousands of square kilometers in every direction. You choose the way. Lead us to where whatever strikes your curiosity, we'll walk that way. And so we do exactly that. And along the way, we're finding, just fantastic finds. Like, oh, here's a little piece of a spine. Here's a toe. Here's like Dinosaur Provincial Park is epic for that. The kind of stuff that would shut down construction of a mall if they found outside of that area, and paleontologists would flock to it to see what was found. In Dinosaur Provincial Park, if you're not finding pretty much a whole skull, forget it. Leave it there. We don't have the resources, we don't have the time to examine every little find. And so we're doing it, and it's, for even myself, it's mind blowing. You just can't imagine wandering around like, there's a dinosaur bone, there's a dinosaur bone. That's suddenly been revealed to us after being hidden for millions of years because it rained before. As we're doing we found even one bone, excuse me, that was so remarkable. Like, we started throughout the rest of the trip, we called it the Flintstone bone. Just because it looked like it was, you're like, oh wow, that's what a kid would draw if you asked them to draw a dinosaur bone. And so we've had this incredible day. We've stumbled upon some really good finds, and it's mind blowing. And we're sitting around having our beverages in the evening around a campfire because we're camping for this particular trip for a couple nights. And the guest says, he's like, I ask you a question. He's like, I don't want to make a big deal. I'm like, that was fake, right? What do you mean that was fake? He's like, no, I know. I was like, I know the bones are real and stuff. He's like, that's all set up for us. They knew where we were going to go. Like, they knew which one, those bones were placed along the way, or they took us. And I was like, you were there with me, man. Like, we chose where to go. This wasn't set
Yeah.
up. There's a vast expanse. And I was just, and he kept, I could tell he was pouring it over in his mind through the rest of the trip. Like, it was so unbelievable to him that he literally was not believing that it wasn't something that was kind of just fabricated for us, but instead that we were making these finds for ourselves, that we were stumbling upon these bones for ourselves, that nobody had gone in the morning and kind of like, okay, here's this bone, take them this way. He couldn't fathom it, and then I think it sunk in that it was real by the time we got up north and did the dig air and in the Pipestone Creek bed. The density is so thick of fossils there that you're prying fossils off of other fossils rather than from rock
Yeah.
or from through the dirt and dust. It's just stacks upon stacks of these. And so I think once we got up there and he saw, oh, there are places within this type of geography and landscape that there can just be seemingly infinite number of dinosaur bones. It seemed to at that point he bought in of like, oh no, this is all authentic. This is genuine. The things we're doing are real and have not been set up for us in props or anything like that. So that obviously brings me a lot of joy. As long as he believes it's genuine by the end of the trip, that it's so unbelievable that he can't fathom that we're not faking the experience.
Yeah. You mentioned a couple of potentially upcoming trips. Without giving away anything that's not ready to be released yet, can you tell me about some of those?
Yeah, so 2025 we're really getting out there. As I said, Patagonia. We're looking at Montana, We've got a great experience coming up with an extensive dig in Montana. We do 2 days in Alberta. We're looking at probably doing 6 days in Montana in 2025. Like, really, if you want to go on the let's do it proper dig and not the let me do a couple. For me, I love let me do a couple days because you're out in the heat. There's bugs. It's a proper dinosaur dig. So go back to the hotel, take a nice shower, sleep in a comfy bed. But Montana, we're gonna turn up the roughing it for a little bit of the experience to make it the truest, most genuine experience. We're looking at Australia as well in 2025, so we're going along the dinosaur trail there. And I mentioned Patagonia, Alberta. Still spots actually available. A couple spots. We're almost sold out for Alberta this summer. But we're doing that as well. And then we're doing a women's only trip along the Jurassic Coast in the UK. So Mary Anning obviously will play it. The story of Mary Anning and her experience will play a big part in that. It's a walking trip that I think is going to be a lot of fun. I don't get to go on it, of course. I would love to, but that will obviously be led by a female guide. But that trip has got a lot of attention so far from a lot of the girls and women who follow Dinosaur Trips and are interested because it can be a pretty dude heavy space sometimes. So to be able to put this cohort of women together to go out and just do it for themselves and without any guys mucking things up, I think it's going to be a really good time.
Sounds incredible. I might even have to join you on the Australian trip.
Yeah, we've got to get you. Absolutely, for sure.
We'll see how we go. Zach, if people are sold and they want to go out and have a look at your trips available or book, how do they do that?
Yeah, dinosaur-trips.com is the best place to find everything that we're up to right now. You can also email me, Zach. That's Zach or Zach, depending on where you're listening from. Zach at dinosaur-trips.com is my email address. The phone number's on the website. We've got a toll-free from anywhere in the world if you want to call that. I always tell people, just give me a call if you're interested in a trip. It's always easiest just to talk it through. It can answer all your questions, reassure you about anything, give you all the information there. So, if you want to shoot me an email or just simply ring me up, it's probably the best way. But to get a sense of kind of what the trip collection looks like, visit the website. And if there's a spot in the world that you want to go that you don't see on dinosaur-trips.com, but there's a paleo piece and you'd like us to put together, we do a lot of tailor-made and we'll put together those private experiences for you as well. So even if you don't see it on the website, but you're intrigued and you want to go, we can do the work and find the paleontologist and get that set up for you as well.
Sounds great. Zach, thanks so much for telling me the story of how you set up Dinosaur Trips and some of those experiences you offer.
It's fun experiences. So thank you. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to jump and do that. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for listening. Find more info on the web at fossilsfiction.co and across social media. Follow and rate us on your favourite podcasting platform. If you have a story to share on the podcast, please get in touch. The theme music is Sonora by Quincas Morea.